Welcome to the Unchurch'D podcast, where church mics are unmuted. Come on, y'all. Last week's episode was off the charts, and it is still off the charts right now. I absolutely enjoyed talking about it. It was so fun to talk about it with my beautiful wife. We had an amazing time talking about something we've never had the opportunity to talk about. But today we're back on the couch, chilling in our living room. My special guest, she is my beautiful wife, but along with being my wife, she's the first lady of our church. She is the founder and the owner of Refuge Kids Academy, which is a preschool that is all around Kansas City doing amazing things. And so thank you for being on the couch with me today again.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Awesome. We're talking about something a little bit lighter than what we were talking about last week, if you will. It may get a little saucy or spicy as well, but
Yeah, I think it will.
yeah. Today we're going to talk about femininity and masculinity and the extremes of both sides. I was researching this a little bit before we started this podcast, and something that really stuck out to me was neuroscientists have been researching distinguishers between male and female brains and trying to see if any translate into major differences between masculine and feminine traits. They have found a number of structural elements in the human brain that differ between males and females. For example, the right and left hemispheres of the male and female brains are not set up exactly the same. And I thought that was interesting. It said females tend to have verbal centers on both sides of the brain, while males tend to have verbal centers only on the left hemisphere of their brain. And as a result of this, women tend to have an advantage when it comes to discussing feelings and emotions, and they tend to be more interested in talking about them rather than men who are more thinkers and rather talk on a logical level to themselves. And I thought that was really interesting in talking about masculinity and femininity. We're going to kind of talk about it in kind of three different scopes. We'll talk about it kind of from our marriage perspective, because culture really has a big deal with masculinity and femininity. Over history, we've seen really change and a shift, and we're Christians, so we can kind of talk about it from a church standpoint as well, but we'll talk about it in a culture standpoint thirdly as well, because I think there has been extremes on both sides. You see men that are over masculine, who don't know how to cry, who don't know how to show their emotions, don't know how to communicate. Then you have men who have a feminine issue where they may have been raised by or have been so overexposed to femininity. Now they lack some level of masculinity. And then on the female side, you have femininity where females have fought for so long to be heard, to have a voice, to be understood, to be equal. And now we have this feminism rise. And so on the other side of that, the extreme to it is that we have females who don't have any touch with their femininity, where they are really masculine and almost mannish in the way they act, the way they talk, the way they live. And it's not always right, and to be honest, I want to kind of clear this up. It's not always about being, what do they call it when girls dress like boys? Tomboyish. It's not always dressing like a boy, though we'll talk about that as well. I think it's more so of being positional as a female and knowing the power of being a female. Yeah. And then there are some who love being men. And then there are men who think they are women. And so I think this is going to be a little more spicier than what I thought. Yeah. So let's kind of talk about it from our marriage perspective. Biblically, because we are Christians, we set up our lives from a biblical standpoint. Yeah. Being feminine and me being masculine, I'm a man's man. So I don't have a lick of femininity in me. What you think?
You don't.
Yeah. And you're the most feminine girl.
Yeah.
Like my mom, most definitely.
There's nothing about me that says, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
You don't, I mean, let's just be real. You're not gonna change a tire.
Never.
That's you married, so you good.
Never
You
gonna
ain't got
do
to.
that.
You don't have to change oil. You don't have to do that. Not that that's a masculine trait, but that just shows your level. You're not gonna get too dirty. You ain't gonna
Probably not gonna get dirty at all.
And so, with that, I think we have to realize femininity and masculinity from a personality standpoint is one thing, but from a posture and positional standpoint is another thing. And Halle, you see feminism rising in the world.
Yeah.
And for me as a man, I have to make you really secure in your femininity, that being okay being a female. What do you say to women who are married to men but still have to be secure in being a female without trying to be too domineering? What do you say to them?
I think that what's really important is just making sure that even in the smallest things,
Right.
you let the man be the man.
Wow, that's powerful.
Like for me, like just the other day, I got a bonus Swiffer thing.
Mm-hmm.
I could have easily put that together myself, but I made you do it.
You could have put that together?
I don't know, but I probably could have if I
Thought about
YouTubed
it.
it or something. I don't
Right.
know. But I asked you to do it because you're the man.
Right.
And I feel like that's what you are for. Mm-hmm. Not that you're only for that, but
Right.
you know what I mean.
Right.
So just small stuff like that, allowing a man to feel like he's needed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, it doesn't belittle you by making him feel like he's needed.
Wow, I
For me,
think that's
how
so
I feel.
powerful. I think women need to hear that for real, because I think for me though, I think that it's my job to protect your femininity.
Yes.
I think that's my job as a man, to protect your femininity, and not to challenge your
I
femininity.
think a lot of men need to hear that.
Yeah, I think because what most men do is in our quest to be the strong men, in our quest to be the strongest of the house and the leaders of our marriage, relationships.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
a
lot
lot for a man.
And so with that, we have to be sure that we are protecting and we are not challenging your femininity.
Yeah.
We are embracing it. And so little stuff like making sure you get your hair done, your nails done, that stuff is big in your eyes. And then this is another part that'll transition us into this, is understanding that my mom said this to me, and she said this to both of us. Men and women are different. And we just got to understand, and men need to understand that. I tell guys all the time, you think you can argue with a woman? If you think you're going to verbally combat a woman and be happy in your marriage, you're going to lose greatly. Either you're going to lose, and this is the thing that men need to understand. Either you're going to lose now in the conversation, or you're going to lose later when it comes to her feelings. I allow you to be the female of the discussion, of the argument, of the debate, of our disagreement. I understand that you're going to have to be more emotional. I understand you're going to want to, there's going to be sporadic moments that that one moment you may be cool, the next minute you may be emotional again. I get that. So I allow that.
Yeah.
I don't try to control that.
You give me room
Exactly.
to blossom. That's how I feel.
Right. No, for real, because then we start trying to turn you into how we feel.
Yeah.
And then not 9 times out of 10, most men who are annoyed by their women, you're annoyed by them because they're not like you.
Yeah.
You're annoyed by them because they don't discuss it like you. They don't talk about it like you.
I think that's vice versa too.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Because and then when you do that, you're trying to make her into something that she'll never be. And eventually you'll shut her down. She'll be quiet. She won't talk. She won't express. And then you'll be missing a part of your passion. And you'll be missing a part of the real love. And then the romance won't be as fiery as it is because she's missing that level of femininity. So men have to protect, but not challenge, and also embrace a woman's femininity. Allow her to be feminine and allow her to do that. I think about, for me, I didn't grow up with my mom being married. So I don't know. She got married once I left. So I really didn't know what a wife in the house was supposed to be like. I had an idea of it. And my idea of it was you cook, you clean, wash. I help along the way. I'm a helper, I don't wash, but I can clean up.
But you will help.
And I'll help in wherever I can. But that was what I believed in my heart. And my mom taught me that was what a woman was supposed to do, even though I didn't see her do it. How do you manage that, though, as a female, and then not feel belittled? Because I think a lot of women that's watching, especially women who are not married, I ain't doing that. I ain't going to be that. I'm not going to. What do you say to that? Or how do you address femininity, submissiveness, and being able to be the wife of the house and still be able
It was a hair on my lip.
And still be able to, just do your thing, not being belittled, but you got to wash.
Yeah.
You got to clean up.
Yeah.
You clean up the kitchen. How do you manage
I think
it?
number one is to don't say what you ain't going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't say you're not going to do it, because, if the more you say it, is the more it will manifest to where you really don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I made a post about this like a couple weeks back, that cooking, cleaning, this stuff is normal day-to-day human activity. Right. So I think that when you think of that in the aspect of I'm doing this because I'm a human being,
right,
versus I'm doing this because I'm a woman,
right,
then you'll actually appreciate it more because it's a human activity. You're
right.
supposed to clean up after you eat.
Right.
You're supposed to wash your clothes unless you're going to hire somebody to do it. I just think that it's just one of those things where you just take it, you just bite the bone with it.
Right.
It has to get done.
Right.
So who's going to do it?
Mm-hmm. I think men got to be careful about understanding that all women don't know that. So pick wisely.
Exactly.
Pick wisely. I knew in the beginning, and I'm not just being funny, but you weren't a cook. And you just said that because you never had to cook. You never had to do it.
Have to.
So I knew that ahead of time. I knew what I was getting married to. So I knew that when we first started, it's going to be a lot of burnt pork chops, salty food. It's going to be some raw stuff sometime. We're going to be testing and trying, and you're going to find out what you're really good at.
Yeah.
I knew that was a part of what we are supposed to be doing. So I prepared myself for that.
Yeah.
And then men have to learn to communicate what we desire out of a woman. And I think that was a struggle for me in the beginning. I didn't know how to tell you to clean up without sounding like you better clean up.
Like you the captain of the ship.
Right. The language of how we communicate. And
that's so important.
Yeah.
That's so important. Because don't just tell me to go clean up, go do this, go do that. And I think that we had that kind of like I think we kind of had that a little bit in the beginning where you would just say stuff and it would just really aggravate me. And then the more I thought about it and the more we grew, like you would just say it in a different way.
Yeah.
Or I would just get it done because I'm one of those type of people. I knew even growing up when my parents would tell me to do this and do that, I hated to hear that. So I would rather just get it done so nobody has to ask me to do it.
I think learning the language of somebody that you want to be with for the rest of your days is crucial.
Very.
I've learned your language, so I know what is your alarm points of this is, if I say it like this, it's going to piss you off. If I say this, you're going to be ticked off.
Yeah.
If I do it like this, but then you've learned my language of, and not just what we say out of our mouth, but body languages of, when I'm like, this, it needs to be cleaned up without me saying it, or, I need this washed without me saying it, or, Sunday morning, you don't know if I'm like gonna wear that white button down, but just have it clean, just in case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the language you learn across the board. But the thing is, you don't lose femininity. You don't lose a level of your femininity or your identity by embracing that as a wife. And so the level of submissiveness, I think we need to understand that being submissive is not about being a slave.
It's not.
When we talk about femininity and masculinity, people who are women, especially in femininity, they've been beaten down by being a female, and they think they are weak, and you're a doormat. The Bible says that that the wife is the weaker vessel. That's what the Bible says. Women who look at that and don't have power in understanding the identity of who they are as a woman, they look at that as a disgrace. when actually when the Lord said that women, or Paul said the women are the weaker vessel, he was praising the women by telling you are the weaker vessel, and he was rebuking the men by reminding the men these are the weaker vessel. So what you think that they should be doing, they should not be doing. They are the weaker vessel. You're the stronger vessel. So there are certain things that are meant for you as a man to do, and for the women is not meant for you, because you are the weaker vessel of the two. I think that nothing bothers me more than seeing the feminine woman, who is a beautiful woman, try to live up and be at the same level of strength as a man. I think that is counterproductive, because you don't allow him to be who he is. What does that word submissive mean to you as a wife now?
I think that it means so many things to me now as a wife.
Yeah, I mean, from your feminine and masculine perspective, you're not losing your femininity. What does that submissive word mean to you?
Wow, that's a really hard question.
Yeah, I mean, for me, because I think that men think that I'm not being a man by I'm not being a man when I submit myself to a woman.
Yeah.
You know, that's easy to be said. Like, if I'm not going to do this and do that, she ain't going to tell me what, how to be. But as men, we have to submit our weaknesses to women. Let me say this better. As husbands, we have to submit our weaknesses to wives. And the reason why is because submission is not less about control. I want everybody to hear me. Submission is less about control, and it's more about covering. Submission is about protecting. Yeah. It's about a guiding protector. So when I submit my weaknesses to you, you're covering it, but then you're guiding me along the way in that area of my weakness. And the same happens for women when you submit yourself to your husband. You're submitting your life to him for him to cover and to guide you. And so there are certain things I don't answer. There are certain choices I don't make because I've submitted that to you. And there are certain things that you don't make. You'll let me make that decision because you submitted that to me. Women have to understand, when you submit that to a man or your husband, that you're not losing power. You're actually gaining more strength.
I really agree with that. It's almost like you just have a safe place.
Absolutely.
It's like I just know, like, just as a wife now, it's just like I always, no matter what, I always have a place that I can go and just, if I mess something up, you're going to fix it.
Right.
Like, just knowing that I can depend on somebody that will never let me down.
Right.
Now, granted, you have to get married to the right person in order to have that place. But I think for me is like, I just know I can count on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. But, and we could talk about marriage and masculinity and femininity all day. I just want husbands to not understand you're not being a girl or a female when you submit that. And you're being less of a man when you refuse to allow your woman to be the female. You're being less of a man when you won't allow them to be. I was just telling one of my guys a couple of days last week. I said, you need to know when her time of the month is. If she still has a time of the month, you need to know her time of the month. You need to know that sometimes she don't have an explanation of why she got an attitude today. She may not know. Seriously. Why she got attitude.
Seriously.
And on the flip side, we have our male periods too. Apparently, I heard that term for the first time earlier. We have our times of the day or the week where we just, and just be real. Like, I've had that.
I just told you 2 days ago you're being very mean to me and I didn't understand why.
I wasn't being mean, I don't think. But there's times in my life as a man where I'm like, I'm stressed. I got to pay the bills. I gotta get the businesses together. I got to do this. I got to this. I got to that. We got to worry about this. I got to make sure she's straight. And the stress just be like, I don't feel like being bothered. And then you're not losing a part of us by not allowing us to be that man.
Yeah.
And then we're not losing a part by allowing y'all to have y'all time of the month. Yeah. Just have attitude. Sometimes I'll just let you ball up and cry. All right, you okay, honey? All right. Well, you okay? All right. I don't know. You don't know what's wrong. All right. And that's just what I allow you to do. Yeah. And so we could talk about marriage all day, but I think the biggest thing we need to discuss, two last things we need to discuss, is the culture of masculinity and femininity, and how the culture really has put a tie on what masculinity and femininity is. I think that there has to be, and this is why the scripture is so important for those who want to understand. Church mics are going to be unmuted today. The Bible is so crucial for me, because when you don't have a guiding light for the structure of a thing, it has no boundaries. You need to understand that. When you have no guiding light for a structure of a thing, of a principle, of a characteristic, of anything, it loses boundaries and it becomes whatever. Yeah. That is something that masculinity and femininity has become in worldview, in culture view, because we forget in the scripture, and now we've allowed it to be. So now we think it's disrespectful. And it hurts me, because we've now told men, you really don't have to be masculine. You can be whatever you want to be. There's no definition for it. And then on the flip side, we've told females, there's no definition for femininity. You can be as great as him. You can do everything the man does. And I do believe that. Don't get me wrong. And don't get me wrong. I believe females can do everything a man can do. But I do believe there's boundaries, and I believe there's structure. I believe there should be an understanding of being okay with being a woman and being successful. Exactly. And it should not be an argument in between. It shouldn't be warfare between, see, I told you I'm a female, I can do this.
I just feel like there are limits. This is just me, though. I feel like there are limits as it pertains to woman versus man. I don't think that it was ever meant for it to be woman versus man.
Absolutely.
We were meant to coexist together,
right?
Not to compete against each other.
Talk about
and
that.
See who can get here quicker, or who can do this better. Anything you can do, I can do better type of mindset. I don't think that that's how the Lord created us. Mm-mm. So when you say, women can do the same thing men can do, I think that there is a limit on that, because yes, you can probably do it, but I can 100% guarantee that there will be something that could stand in your way that would hinder you from going as hard as a man. Mm-hmm. Genetically, how we are created. Mm-hmm. Men are typically stronger than women. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying that there are few
and typically, and twos. Yeah, like you said, that's typical. There's a few of them along the way.
Yeah, there are some that are stronger, but when you think about just life as a whole, we were not created to be a man.
Right.
And that's just how I feel.
And men were not created to be
a woman.
Absolutely.
Either. And it's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. Now, when we talk about like stuff that women should be allowed to do, one of my favorite movements was the women's suffrage movement in 1920, when the women were marching to get us our ability to vote. I think that that's something that we should be allowed to do. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes
to equal pay and stuff like that,
that's understandable.
Right.
The pay, the voting, stuff like that. They weren't marching for us to just become men.
Right.
We can just do everything. Honestly, some women are housewives. Some are okay with that. Honestly, I would be okay with that. Like, I don't see nothing wrong with that. Like, some women, feel like they just have to, I don't know, just
prove themselves.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I think that that's something that, you need healing from that.
Yeah. You're so wounded because you've been brought down for so long. You've been trying to compare yourself.
Or you see your mom has been hurt in the past, or grandma or whatever. You don't want to be like them. But that does not mean that your story is going to be their story.
That's awesome.
Like, you're able to see that for a reason.
That's awesome.
Because I grew up in a home with both parents. So my mom was a wife my whole life.
Yeah.
So just watching her, I kind of figure, she cleans, she cooks. My mom cooked like almost every single day. Cooked a meal every single day to make sure my dad ate. She would make his plate first, so I know to always make my husband's plate first. It also, really depends on the background and where you come from. And just watching her and the way that she was submitted, it was stuff that they were going through that we would never know.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a power in your femininity. Mm-hmm. Not being so strong and making it clear. And I mean, I could only imagine that if my mom was more masculine, that we would know.
Right.
They'd probably be fighting
Right.
or whatever right in front of us.
Right.
But I think that, like you said, tying this into culture.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely. And I think that's the extreme of feminism to me. The extreme of feminism is we're doing this to compete against men.
Yeah.
We're not doing it for the freedom of women. We're doing it for the competition against men.
Exactly.
I'm all for
that was what needs to be said.
I'm all for us getting the freedom for women.
Yeah.
I am against us being the competitors for the women. There should never have to be.
There's an ulterior motive behind the feminism movement.
Yeah. In some people's mind, and it's and to be honest, again, this comes from past wounds and hurt. When you were a single parent, when you had to do this and do that all by yourself, you had to do this and you learn to now put that on other people. And now, girl, you can do that. You don't, INDEP, independent. You can do this and do that. But you need somebody to be able to say, hey, I got you. I'm there for you. I love you. I got your back. You need that. And that's the same thing with masculinity. I think the extreme of masculinity is that men don't know the power of our emotional health. Like our emotional, mental health. Masculinity has been surrounded around physical aggression. So long, testosterone is actually linked to aggression. But they have shown in studies that culture really will dictate where aggression lies and where it doesn't. And so for us as men, we have been taught and we have been trained that physicality is what makes us manly. Like if you buff, if you strong, if you this, if you that, that's what makes you man. And so we'll look, and this is the sad part about it. Culturally, we have looked in the past at men who are smart, but not as strong, men who are intelligent with degrees, may not dress like everybody else. And we'll look at them and ostracize them because our perspective about what masculinity really is screwed. It is. It's skewed by all of the things of the culture. What we really need to understand about masculinity is you really have not really found true manhood until you've learned to tap into the other dimensions of your life, the other areas of your life. Yes, you are physically strong, but how mentally strong are you? Because I know physical strong men who are mentally weak. You are physically strong, but how emotionally strong are you? I know physical men who have no emotional stability at all. Those two things, emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually, those things have to be contested as men for you to walk into your manhood. It has to. So I think that one thing that is big for me in masculinity is we have to be able, the biggest issue with masculinity is this. And let's just really be honest. Our fathers really didn't know what masculinity was. We were only taught that if you pay the bills, you do this, you do that, you're a man. Yep. You got responsibility, you're a man. But that don't mean it, because now we sell dope to get our house payment paid. We sell dope, end up going to drugs. We kill somebody, do this. So does that make me a man now? No, it doesn't. So obviously the definition of you just need to be able to take care of your stuff, take care of your family, pay your bills, that's no longer what masculinity is all about. Masculinity is about being able to tap into every area of your life. You know what I'm saying? Studies even say, people who talk about femininity and masculinity, females love the kids more, men are more, in touch with logic. That's not true. Masculinity is about being able to be in touch with every area of their life. On the downside of both of those areas, femininity, what have you seen where it is women have become too masculine? And, what has that done to our culture as women, where women have become too boyish? I mean,
Yeah, I think that some women have become too masculine in raising kids.
Wow.
I think that for our culture as a whole, you have fathers that walk out, and you have fathers that just, mommy's baby, daddy's maybe.
Yeah, I've seen that.
They feel like they have to take on that figure because he's not there.
Yeah.
And no matter how many programs we do, to put father figures in these kids' lives. Mothers just have that mommy instinct that I just have to be it.
Yeah.
But I think that, motherhood has to be an amazing thing. I mean, you pushed it out.
Yeah.
It's yours.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a man to take care of it.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's happening how it is for a reason, not for you to try to fill that void.
Right.
So I think that a lot of women become masculine, and that's one of the strongest areas for our culture, for sure.
Yeah, I can't stand, I'm not going to lie, one of my biggest pet peeves is a woman that's trying to be a boy. I'm just saying, your church mic's unmuted. This is what y'all asked for. Like, I think that, because I was raised by women.
Yeah.
And so I know what a woman is supposed to, like, if I go to a place and a woman is with a dress on and sitting with her legs open, like, I literally want to twist her legs around her neck. You come around me and a woman, you trying to pound me or dap me up. I'm like, hug me. I think they're certain women in our church, I've even taught women how to shake a man's hand. Like, you don't dap up a man like girls come up, I'll be looking at their hand like, I'm not doing that. There's a level of femininity that comes along with it. I think that business is different. If you're in a business meeting, as a woman, you do need to be firm in your handshake, and you need to be very structured and very businesslike. But when you are as just being a female, there are certain, what's up, bro? I'm like, there is a certain level,
bro this and bro that. Like, I feel like that's not even our language.
There's the level of femininity that comes along with, and then to be a wife. You know what I'm saying? If your goal is to be a wife, most men aren't looking for women who are like them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you have to prepare yourself, and let's just get this straight. I don't think every woman who dresses like a tomboy, if you would, and that's kind of an extreme word for it, but that isn't girly in their dress. I don't think that they are masculine. I don't think they're trying to be masculine.
Your clothes don't define you.
Absolutely.
It's not the clothes, it's the way you carry yourself.
Absolutely.
Because, like, okay, you're wearing, I don't know, sweatpants and Jordans,
right,
and maybe a baseball cap. But you walking in shaking hands, like you said. Okay, now you're taking on this role, and it's crazy. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
But if you got that on and you come in like a lady, it's different.
Yeah.
The clothes don't define you. It's who you are on the inside.
Right.
Absolutely. But for some people, the clothes do define them. And maybe that's the problem.
Right. Absolutely. So I think that that's the extreme for females. And I think that, to be honest, when we look at it, it's culture. You know what I'm saying? You can be whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. And for men, when you look at us as men, where have you? Because feminine men flock to women. I've dealt with counseling and helping with men who are trying to become, or who have come out of homosexuality, who are trying to be more of men. That's a process. I get that. I've dealt with men all the time who are gradually every day catching themselves, making sure they talk, walk, how they act, what they say, who they hang around is different. Because for a feminine man, it is uncomfortable to sit in a room full of very masculine men, especially when you have people in the room that don't understand where you come from. So what have you seen, or what if some wounds or some things that you have seen or noticed about men that are feminine?
I think, like what you said, it's very difficult for them to change their environment because it's what they're used to. It's what they know.
Environment is a big deal.
So when they come into that new environment where there are all these just men, real men, like, just imagine that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you, like, it's a new world to you,
Right.
honestly, because you've probably never been around men. You've never been around a real man that is not looking to try to be with you or try to push you to that lifestyle, if that makes sense.
We always talk about how if you are a man trying to become more masculine, if you struggle with femininity, or if you're a woman that is struggling with femininity and you're masculine, you have to extricate yourself from environments that tempt you to continue in that.
And I think that's for anybody across the board. If it's an area that you're trying to get away from, you can't keep going back to that place and playing with it if you're trying to grow from it.
Right.
Some people like a little femininity in their men. I mean, hey.
Do they?
Some people do.
Christ.
Like, I don't know. To me, I feel like getting your nails groomed is a bit feminine.
I like getting
You don't get your nails done ever.
But I think there's an extreme to it. I think there's a way to go about it.
Like getting gloss.
Now
The gloss polish. I'm not saying getting a manicure. The gloss polish, the clear polish on top where it's shining, where you can see it. Some women like that.
Yeah.
That's feminine to me.
Yeah.
So I guess, it just...
And culture base is different too. You know what I'm saying? Your brother, your father were very masculine men. They ain't doing all of that. Now, your dad
Don't
did,
even get me started on them.
But to be honest, though, I'm not going to get my nails groomed just because that's just me. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. But, on the other hand, I'm not going to... I'm not glossing. I'm not glossing. I'm not glossing. I'm not going to be in the pulpit. I'm not glossing, and I'm not going to be in the pulpit. My fingernails glossing, and yours is colored and mine is glossing. I'm not doing that. And then on the other hand, too, I'm not going to be, every weekend mani-pedi on my page.
Posting it, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that we are really starting to see that there's a very thin line between masculinity and femininity tonight.
And for masculine, okay, let's even go deeper. I wear skinny jeans. But let me tell you something. There is a difference in how you operate with what you wear.
That's what I'm saying. It's the way you carry yourself.
As a man.
Not the clothes, it's the way you carry yourself. Honestly, now, as a man, it is the clothes too.
Yeah, it is.
That's crazy because we always talk about like the gender biases and stuff like that. But it is what it is.
It is.
Some stuff with men cannot fly. Like you can't, like a woman can wear, like I have on your shirt right now, actually.
Yeah.
So like I can wear your shirt, but you could never wear any of my clothes. Your shirt. Like you could not.
No.
You just could not.
No. I was seeing man leggings and what did they come out with like 2 years ago?
The rumpers?
Yeah, the men. Now y'all gotta stop.
There's a very thin line.
Y'all got to stop
it's
that.
It's a thin line. Like I said, a man can't go to a women's section in the store and get something that's women's and wear it versus a woman can go to
I think there's a thin line with that as well. I mean, Jordans I've worn, I can't some things, but there are Jordans that are women that I may wear.
In the future, because right now you don't have any.
Yeah, no, in the future. Because I don't buy shoes anyway like that, but I think there's a thin line between that too.
I didn't mean it like that because I was going to say you're not going to get the women's shoes.
Why?
Because there's a very thin line.
Oh no. I think that I'm probably not, but I don't think that it makes you more feminine if you do. Yeah, I don't think so.
Shoes is different. I'm talking about
but I think a romper is nasty.
Yeah, okay.
That's nasty. Oh, sorry. That's nasty though. It is.
Going left. Let's move on.
Okay, but but this is the truth though. We just have to be careful. You know what I'm saying? And we can transition to this in our final leg of it. The church and masculinity and femininity. Yeah. It's gotten too far in some areas. It just gotten too far. Yeah. I don't know. For me, I think for a man, I mean, because we're on talking about men, there is a fine line of discretion we have to remain careful of. And I know this is only because a lot of men who were raised in church were raised by women in church, and they never had a man to correct that area of their life to ever tell them that's what a woman would do. If you're switching, I've seen men preachers that have more feminine traits than they do male traits. And it is distracting to what you're talking about.
It's very distracting.
I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. It creepy crawls me out. Okay. But I think that we need to understand that if that's a struggle of yours, it's okay. But you need to be sure that you have people in your life that are correcting you when you get done. Yeah. And I think that is where we said, well, I'm not gay. Okay, well, if you're not, then you need to express to me what is going on with this, because it looks like it looks like residue.
And the person telling you about it cannot be the same thing as you either.
I didn't even mean to speak in tongues on this Unchurch'D live, but I just had to. Like, seriously.
Like, come on. Both of y'all nails is painted and y'all telling each other about who's being too.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that.
Like, we're not trying to be judgmental though about it.
No,
we're
because this is the thing. On a super masculine side, men who are in church, we've been taught how many chicks you have in church. And I think that's the fine line of a difference, because guess what? Just because I'm telling you you're being too feminine as a man, I'm not telling you you got to go screw every girl in the church to be more masculine. So no, we're not being judgmental, because there's two extremes of it as well. I've seen extremes from men who are preachers who are so masculine in their preaching that it almost comes off degrading to women. So there is a fine line, or that you can't cry, you can't worship, you can't do any of that.
And I think the women preacher thing is that's a whole podcast for itself.
Yeah.
When I say you can tell a wounded woman preacher,
you know me, and I could go on and on about that.
Even for me, like, I'm all for the women empowerment, but that does not mean degrade men.
And in every sermon and everything you talk about dog men as dogs and this is and that and that. In every sermon you talking about how you was hurt by this person and you was hurt by that, and women don't gotta do this and do that. Preach the scripture. Just preach the Bible and the scripture, and let us be done.
Talk about Ruth and Boaz.
You know what I'm saying? And move on with your and do it every now and then. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then on the and so for me, there is always two extremes to it. I've seen,
I see what you mean.
I've seen too many masculine men to say, you know what, they if you shout, if you praise the Lord, if you dance, if you do that, then you are feminine. And I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
I don't agree with, or if you sing in the praise team, or if you do this or do that, sing in the choir, it's feminine.
If you're an usher.
If you're an usher, that's feminine. It's not. That's too masculine. Yeah. And so, with women, there are women on the flip side who are in church that desire to be like men, because that is how you shot to the top, to be the top rank, because men did it. So I got to shout like men, preach like men.
I see that too. Not even just those things, but just trying to get in the men's circle.
Yeah.
Like, I see women that are fighting to be in the men's circle in church because they feel like that's how you get accepted.
Wow.
That's the crew. That's the it factor. If I can just get, excuse me, if I can just get in this group of men, I got it.
Right.
However, it's not the way.
Right. Absolutely.
And typically, when you try to force yourself into a group of men as a woman, 9 times out of 10, they don't want you there.
Right. Most
don't
definitely.
Fit there.
That's powerful.
Some stuff is just for women, and some stuff is just for men. And I think that if we can just stick with that, the world will be a wonderful place.
Yeah. In closing, I think we need to really discuss that, though there are two extremes.
Yeah.
In Unchurch'd and Mike, these mics are definitely unmuted.
This is stuff I would not say if these mics are muted. Honestly. Homosexuality is real in the pulpit. Like, it's real. It's serious. It's real. And it is hidden in closets. But it is hidden in closets because masculine men have just been so degradational about it. And they've been so rude and so mean against men who struggle with that. We don't know what they had to go through to get to that point. I'm telling every man who's struggling with femininity, hear me clearly. It's okay. It's a struggle. You can work through that. Every woman who's dealing with masculinity, that's real. Lesbianism is real in the church. It is. I think that's one of the most hidden things in the church is lesbianism.
Yeah, it is.
I promise you. Because you would never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Never know.
You never know. But it's okay if it's a struggle.
It's okay.
It's okay. We're working through it. We're progressing through it. We're nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to talk bad against you or say anything. It's okay. And then on the flip side, for those who are too masculine and too feminine, you have to even yourself out to be reachable to those who are trying to be reached. And I think the powerful thing about it in my closing remarks, as I do every week, is that we always talk about the Holy Spirit and the scripture and prayer, but that is the taming point. That is why it's so necessary for that balance to come. And the only way you can get that balance is by a spiritual discipline in your life. And then number two, you also get it by accountability, by making sure you have somebody around you who you can be accountable to, where when you start switching, when you start being manly as a female, when you start being too masculine, or when you start being too having your feminism Amazon woman going, then you have somebody that can draw you back and say, hey, there needs to be a balance in it. But this is the thing. Take pride in being a man. Take pride in being a woman. If you're a woman, be a woman. No, and then when I say this, women get offended when I say it, but it's the truth. Know your place as a woman. Because guess what? When you know your place as a woman, you know your power as a woman. Most women don't know their power as women because they don't know their place. There is a power behind being a woman because you found your place. You can make a man do whatever you want him to do when you find your place and you're in right posture. He'll respect you. He'll care for you, take care of you, find your place. And men, know your roles. Know your roles and respect the roles of others. And that is what we have to do. And I believe that is when we do that, we'll see a healthy balance between the two and we'll see less competition. And so these church mics are unmuted. Thank you for listening once again to another episode of the Unchurch'D podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media outlets and continue to share and let people know these church mics are unmuted.